So in this video, I'm going to walk you through basically my whole LinkedIn strategy, which is basically what I do for outreach and just maintaining the whole agency. I say I run a personal brand agency, but realistically it's a LinkedIn agency. That's how I acquire clients. And what I do is I actually then put them onto Instagram, YouTube, and most of the time, and what you would want to do is acquire them on LinkedIn, very easy to do, and then actually put them on Instagram, but also then YouTube long form, because that's where you can really pay them, and that's where they get to see really, a big ROI on their investment, which is exactly what you would want to do. So looking at my sort of screen, I want to go through quite a few things actually, through conversation, KPIs, my offer, and just what I do as well to maintaining it. So yeah, like I mentioned before, this is the whole LinkedIn strategy that I do for myself and my clients to grow my account, 6,100 followers in the last year. And yeah, going through how I sign clients, how I charge 10K plus in GBP, book calls and build authority and trust using this whole LinkedIn strategy. So first I want to go through the big three is what I call them in terms of actually managing and engaging with the community and with your account, which I think is super, super important because it tells LinkedIn that you're active, but also you're just interacting with the community, which is super important. So the first thing I do every single day is these three things. Every day, non-negotiable. I connect with 20 people a day, nothing more, because then LinkedIn thinks you're a robot. So you want to do 20, nothing less, nothing more. And the reason you want to connect with people is because then you want to message them, which I'll get onto later. Because on LinkedIn, you can only message people you're connected to. So that's exactly why I do that. So I can build a connections list and I can message all the people that I've connected, and obviously only connect with your ICP. So whatever your ICP may be, only connect to them. So if it's just coaches and consultants in finance or in accounting, whatever it may be, only connect to those people that are in the coaching and consultant and also specifically in the accounting industry. And I'll walk you through exactly how I do that on my LinkedIn. So what I typically do is you search, and you can search for whatever, right? You could search for, let's just say, coaches and consultant, and then they'll come up. And then what you can even do is you can then filter these people even more. So when you go show all, you see here, you can go all filters, and then you can actually filter them to exactly what you want, which is so, so powerful. And if you have sales nav and you want to invest, it's quite spendy. It's about £100 a month. But with Sales Navigator, you can do this at even like bigger fundamental, like you can even do this even better. So again, let's just say coaches and consultant. Here you can really filter them to the current company, headcount, past company, company type, how many people are in the company, their seniority level, where they're at, the actual industry. Like it's crazy the detail you can go through Sales Navigator, and you can really handpick your ICP. And then what you do, you just press the three dots and you press connect, because again, it's really important that you actually want to connect with them. So I do this actually on LinkedIn Sales Nav, and on LinkedIn as well. Once you realize is when you go to my network, you'll see that the people you may know based on your recent activities starts to become your ICP. So you can go show all, and you can actually just connect with people here. Go on their profile, look at their bio, make sure they're your ICP. You can also use AI to do this as well, but I just like to do it manually because it doesn't take me long at all. So that's what I do with LinkedIn. And I engage in comment with 8 to 10 people a day. Super important, because this tells LinkedIn that you're actually active on LinkedIn and you're actually engaging with the community. Again, what I do is I go home. Basically what I do as well, is quite sneaky, is I go and copy paste this on ChatGPT. And on ChatGPT, I've got the same prompt I use every day, which is give me a very short comment, make sure it's insightful, don't just copy what they say, remove quotations, and it just gives me a 1 to 2 liner comment to just comment. And then I just do 8 to 10 a day, obviously making sure that these are my ICP, but also some of them could be my competitors and people that are in my space, because their posts are obviously going to land to people who are their ICP. And so their ICP, which is also going to be your ICP, they're going to see your comments and see that it's insightful, check you out, etc. And it leads into a rabbit hole. So you want to do a bit of mix of your ICP, but also people that target your ICP as well. So in the same sort of industry, same niche, basically doing what you're doing. So I do about 8 to 10 a day of those to keep up with the community. And then lastly is I look at signals. And this is really important, because this is basically sort of one with people who aren't cold because they've checked you out. This could be profile views, interaction, follows, etc. So you can check your profile views. You need sales nav to have this, but you can check your profile views and then message people who look like your ICP and ask them, what made you view your profile? And it's a much better way to than just to just cold message them, because it's like they've actually checked you out and they're somewhat warm because they've checked you out. The other thing is interactions. So you can go on your notifications. You could see who's interacted with your post. Even better, go on your profile. And then you could just see your comments and see who's interacted with your post. And you can be like, why did you comment? What made you comment X, Y, Z? Did you find it insightful? And just start natural conversation. And then as well, your followers and other sort of signals as well. So that's really the big three that I call them to maintain the whole LinkedIn brand. The next bit is the content plan, which I think is super important. So I've really mixed mine with educational to actually show that what you're talking about. Personal, which always do best on LinkedIn. The personal ones for me always bang, whether that's me going to China because I went to China recently, or me living on an island, or me being at uni and doing all these businesses. Personal stuff tend to do really, really well. Case studies, super important as well. What's worked with people, what you implemented, their results. And actually, once you've done their case study as well, and you've actually, done and you've actually fulfilled for a client, you can even ask them for a recommendation, which is super, super important as well, because that builds so much trust, right? Next thing, up and down, actually documenting the journey. What were the ups? What were the down? And don't be afraid to really put the down, because that really humanizes you as well. And then just documenting the journey as well, which is me doing my weekly sort of, week 40 of documenting the journey, where I just walk through and talk through my week of what I've done and that I post on LinkedIn. And people actually message me and say, I really like what you're doing with that sort of series. So as well, documenting the journey of building in public, basically. So that's the content plan. Really important to sort of follow a content plan and not be very just educational or very personal. You need to have a mix of all of those. Now the next thing, outreach, which is probably the most important thing, because that's how you're going to get clients. And you want to play on your advantage and really leverage your advantage and your unfair advantage. And a lot of the time is you think that this is actually a disadvantage when it's your unfair advantage. And by that, I mean, to give you an example, you would think that me being 20 and me being at uni and running different businesses is a disadvantage. But actually, it's an unfair advantage, and people really look for that because I'm young, I work hard, I'm very ambitious, and also they like that I'm at uni because potentially it might represent them. They were at uni, they want to start a business, or they find that really hard working that I've got uni, and I'm doing uni and I do multiple businesses at the same time. So really play on your unfair advantages that you even think might be a disadvantage. Yeah, a lot of the time, a lot of your disadvantages that you think is a disadvantage is actually your unfair advantage. And again, remember the 20 people that we want to connect, we actually want to message all of them. So what you do is you go on my network, and then you can go onto your connections, and then here, all your connections, all the people that have accepted, connected with you, whatever it may be, are here. And these should all be your ICP, nothing more but just your ICP. And then what you do is you message them. And I tend to message 10 to 15 a day. And I'm about to get on what sort of message I message them. But yeah, just back to those connections, message all of those connections, because that's the whole point of actually connecting with them. And then also leverage Sales Nav. So like I was mentioning, Sales Nav, again, you have to pay, but you can actually message people. So if you go back onto Coaches and Consultant, you search them up, whatever it may be, you can actually go on her, for example, and then you can press message and you can actually message her. Some of them will be free to profile. So if it doesn't say in-mail, it means it's free. But with Sales Nav, you have 50 in-mails. So you can only technically message 50 people that says in-mail. But for the people that don't, which is actually a lot of them, it says free to profile, you can just message them. So here, I'll find you one. I actually can't find one, but proving my point that a lot of them is just free to profile. So it's really okay, here we go. So you use one of 36 credits. So at the start of every month, it'll be use one of 50. So for these, only message 2 of them a day because it runs out every month. But a lot of the time, as you saw, it's just going to be free to profile, which you can just give them a message. Oh, well, there we go. Okay, so there you have to pay, you have to use your credit, but here, free to profile. I typically message about 8 a day. So realistically, I'm messaging about 25 people a day on LinkedIn, cold outreach. And then really important that once they reply and they're interested, make sure that you have them on the CRM so you can actually follow up with them. Super important to follow up with them. I think most of my clients came from follow-ups. So yeah, really important to track this. I use Notion. I use super simple CRM, and I just whack them on there so I never ever lose them as a lead. And then a whole other video, but optimizing your profile is actually one of the most important things to do. And this is where you can really display you, what you do, and what makes you unique. And every time you message someone, every time someone checks you out, they're going to check your profile. And that's why it's so important to have this optimized to the bang. I can make a whole other video about this, but just quickly going through it, have a good cover, have a good profile picture, a good bio that tells exactly what you do. A really good about section, who are you? What have you done? What is your unfair advantage? And a little bit about sort of the personal side, not the business side. The featured section, posts that have done really well, and posts that you want people to see. Super important to utilize this because it's like one quick glance of exactly what you want people to see. Then you've got your activities, your experiences, write them all there. Education, I've got my volunteering, my skills and recommendation, which is, again, super important because that builds so much trust, right? If people are recommending you to other people, obviously it's going to build a lot of trust. And then as well, your languages. So just optimizing this and basically adding all the sections here. You'll see this add section and trying to fill this as much as you can. Now I'm going to walk you through some actual real life conversations and some values. So I use this outreach tracker, which is really important to understand your KPIs. And you can see the date, the day, how many messages I've sent this today on the actual day. So I have three of this. I have two for one LinkedIn connections and one LinkedIn sales nav. How many people have replied and are having conversation and somewhat interested? How many people have I sent a Loom video and viewed it? How many people didn't reply? The total replies, people that have replied to the initial message but basically aren't interested or unqualified. People that are definitely qualified, so have replied to the first message and said, let's get on the call. And these are just people that are having conversation. Booking link sent, so how many people have I sent my Canny link? And then you've got that on the percentage and then your book rate as well, which is really important. So as you can see here, this was the first week of July, and some weeks, like I mentioned, you don't see much result. Like realistically, this isn't very good. Your reply rate should be 30%. Having conversation and qualified should be 30% of that 30%. And then your booking rate should be at least 3 to 5%. So this isn't the best. And that's just a reality of entrepreneurship. You know, every week isn't going to be amazing. Some weeks are going to be amazing. Some weeks are going to be absolutely shite like this one. But what I do is, let's say I message 20 people on Thursday. 2 people I'm having a conversation, I whack it there. 5 people have replied but just said not interested, I whack it there. Really simple to use, and it's really important to use because as you can see here, I'm looking at 18% reply rate. And if this carries on after I typically use 150 messages as a benchmark, I would say, well, this clearly doesn't work. I need to change up my messaging, my first initial message. And so that's why you need to have KPIs, because if you don't, you would never know. And so I actually do switch my messages and I try different things, different style, being very direct, indirect, salesy, non-salesy, see what works, see what doesn't. And as soon as I see that, okay, when it's gone back up to 35, 40%, I use that specific message going forward. And so this is really good because I've used countless different initial messages. And it's all helped me just increase the reply rate with the whole goal of increasing that reply rate. And then obviously then appointment setting, and that's going to come with the booking rate. But that's why it's so important. Now to walk you through some actual live messages, here's some DMs that I've done just to give you an example. So you can see here, this is a client I signed for 10K. I was like, hi name, happy new year. My name's Zacheo, came across your profile, was really impressed by the work you're doing, blah, blah, blah. You could read it. And then she was like, yes. So I sent her my Canny link, got on the call and signed it. And it was literally that quick, 10K like that from just a couple messages. As you can see, I used that and then it started to not really work. And then I changed it up, as you can see here, came across your profile, really like what you're building. And here I actually talk about my unfair advantage, which I thought was a disadvantage, where I talk about a uni student in my 20s, hungry and obsessed with client winning. And so I really utilize what I think people would think is a disadvantage when realistically it's an unfair advantage. And some are just some example DMs as well. You see, sounds interested, of course, let's get on a call. And that was very recently as well, literally a couple of days ago. So really switching up the messages based on what's working, and you know what's working based on the actual outreach tracker, which is super important. And to run you through my offer as well, here's sort of the offers that I do. You can read through them, but a lot of the time, and my most sort of used one is this one, where we do long form, 12 pieces of content, short form LinkedIn posts, strategic guidance, appointment setting done with you, and just consulting on scaling that brand. So I typically do this one, which is $2,000 a month, and with a minimum 4 months term, which is about $8,000 in GBP. So that's the offer that I currently run and that I use on my LinkedIn client. And so obviously get them on LinkedIn. They're great on LinkedIn because that's sort of where they grew up to, very corporate. And then we move them onto Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube because they know that people are starting to use their platform and they need to diversify. So that's what I do. And that's literally what I did for a client as well. She was very much on LinkedIn. She's a partner. She knows how important social media is. So we moved on to YouTube, long form, short form, Instagram, TikTok. And she's even messaged me saying like she's getting so much interactions. So yeah, an absolute gold mine at the moment. And in terms of time-wise as well, I can do all of this in terms of outreach and the big 3 if you really lock in about half an hour. So it doesn't take long at all to maintain all this, message people, and start conversations and have conversation in DMs. So this shouldn't take you long at all. But yeah, I hope this was somewhat valuable. If you have any questions, feel free to comment or message me on Instagram. I'll reply to every single one and try and give as much value as I can and as great response as I possibly can. But yeah, I hope you took some value. And again, any question, feel free to let me know.